Stop wasting your time drawing eyes if you're a beginner. I'm going to show you what you should focus on instead to learn to draw faster. This video is about drawing eyes from observation, not imagination. Have you taken a beginning drawing course and one of the lessons was how to draw a realistic eye? Then later you take another course, and one of the exercises, again, is how to draw a realistic eye. Maybe you've done this several times, trying to improve. For beginning artists, it's a waste of time to do these draw a realistic eye tutorials. I'm sure there are many who disagree, but hear me out on this. I can understand why they have you draw an eye. As a beginner, you want to build your confidence. And since an eye seems so complicated, when your drawing looks like the reference, you really do feel a sense of accomplishment. A lot of beginner drawing courses have this exercise, so why is it a bad thing? Drawing things like eyes is the problem. It sets up an expectation that drawing different things requires different skills, like drawing eyes is somehow different than drawing noses or hands. If you're looking at a cat, the drawing skills you use to get proportions right are no different than if you're looking at a car or a tree. The problem with just drawing eyes is you're not learning to draw them in proportion to the rest of the face. You want to learn to draw eyes so that when you draw faces, they're more accurate. And you want to draw faces better so you can draw people better. It's like if you wanted to learn how to read and write, and you found all these videos teaching you how to read and write just the word cat. By learning to draw eyes, it separates the eyes from their surroundings and places too much emphasis on this one individual feature. There are times when drawing eyes is helpful. I'll tell you later, but first let me show you why it gets in the way. I have an artist friend who always draws the eyes too large. You've heard the phrase, eyes are the window to the soul. Well, this idea can subconsciously affect how you draw them. How can it not? Imagine drawing a face, and you get to the eyes, and in the back of your mind you think, ooh, now I'm drawing the eyes, the window to the soul. We have a tendency to emphasize things we think are important. The reason just drawing eyes is such a problem comes from when you were a child. You could draw anything you could think of, right? Well, actually you could draw all these symbols for things, and that satisfied you for a long time. But there were always kids who could draw things that looked more real than these symbols. There's a natural progression from those childhood drawing symbols to looking at something and being able to draw it as it appears in real life. And isn't that what you really want? You don't want to just draw eyes. The catch, though, is that eyes are one of the earliest symbols you learn as a child. And the more you draw that symbol and watch videos about how to draw realistic eyes, the more firmly entrenched that symbol becomes in your mind. When you follow most of those tutorials, all you're really doing is learning a more detailed version of that childhood eye symbol. And on the surface, it feels satisfying because it's reinforcing what you already know. But you're just adding details, making a more elaborate symbol. And you're definitely not learning to draw the unique shapes of the eyes in front of you in real life. That's why learning to draw eyes is a waste of time for beginners and will only make it harder down the road. Eyes look right when they're in proportion to the other elements of the face. Drawing them in isolation reinforces them as symbols, which gets in the way of what you're actually seeing. I'm going to show beginners a better way to draw from observation. But first, if you're finding this helpful, please like and subscribe. It really helps YouTube share it with more people, which lets me keep making more. And if you want more insight on how to draw better, faster, sign up for my newsletter. It's the first link in the description. So what do you do instead of drawing eyes? The solution is actually pretty simple. If you're looking at your subject and think, okay, now I'm going to draw the left eye, your logical brain gets all excited and thinks, I know how to draw an eye. I've been doing it for years. Here. And it pushes out the most current, detailed version of the eye symbol it's learned. Which, of course, doesn't look like what's in front of you. And so you spend a lot of time erasing and struggling because that eye symbol is interfering. To draw the unique eye in front of you, focus your attention on the nearby spaces around it. The best way to do that is to not think of the name of the thing. The name of the thing automatically triggers the deeply entrenched symbol of the thing. But we don't have a name for this interesting shape. Or this one. We call these odd shapes negative shapes. By focusing on these unnamed negative shapes and shadows, we automatically switch over to thinking about relationships and angles. And with practice, it becomes easier to see and simply draw these negative shapes. If you find yourself always making the eyes too large, focus your exercises on learning to see and draw the negative shapes between and around the features. The exciting thing is that by drawing the negative shapes, counterintuitively, you end up drawing the object you're trying not to think about. And this skill is really powerful. You don't want to waste your time learning to just draw one thing. You want the skill to observe and draw anything. The more you practice seeing and drawing the negative shapes around things, the more automatic it becomes. Pretty soon you won't even realize you're doing it. You're just drawing whatever you're looking at. I mentioned earlier there are times when focusing on drawing individual features like eyes is a good thing. I think there are two best times to focus on drawing eyes. The first is when you're learning more advanced skills of shading and rendering, but this only looks right when you have the proportions in place. Have you ever tried to draw something and it didn't look right, so you try to fix it by adding more shading and cross-hatching? I have a friend who was in an art class, working on a figure drawing. He'd spent all this time on shading and making it look so real, and everyone said how amazing it looked. Then the teacher glanced at it and said, "The arm's too long. See how this should be lining up with this?" So he had to erase all that careful shading and get the proportions right. Then all the careful rendering paid off. The second time to focus on drawing eyes is when you're learning anatomy. But as a beginner, if you jump ahead and try to learn anatomy too soon, you'll just be learning more names of more objects, right when you're trying to not let names of things get in your way. Besides, not all those parts are visible from every angle and in every lighting condition the same way on every person, but you'll try to squeeze them in anyway. It's possible your past efforts in learning to draw eyes have not been wasted. It's possible you saw beyond the basic eye symbol and actually learned to see the angles and shapes that make the actual eye recognizable. And sure, you could ignore all this advice and keep on drawing eyes and noses and all the individual things. And by brute force in many years, you'll improve. But why make it so hard on yourself? Seeing negative shapes is one of the early foundational skills that help you progress as an artist. The writer, Natalie Goldberg, tells this story. When I was young, I played tennis. My arm wasn't very strong and I was impatient. I was so eager to play, I held the racket up higher on the grip than I was supposed to in order to compensate. Unfortunately, I got used to using the racket this way. I was a fine tennis player, but no matter how much I played, there was just so far I could improve because I never mastered one of the important basics, the proper grip on the racket. The sooner you learn and master this skill of seeing negative spaces, the faster you'll improve. If you want to see how this skill works in real time and hear what is actually going through an artist's mind without naming things, watch this video as I draw a pair of hands.